Hello and welcome to the Patriot Cinema Podcast. I'm Joe. Here with me is my co-host Dan.
Hello and greetings.
And at the start, I owe Dan an apology because we've been doing he chooses a movie, I choose a movie. Then he chooses a movie. And I chose The Majestic. He chose the first movie in the podcast. And then I chose this movie thinking, well, let's choose something British that's patriotic and that does not have too many gunfights or anything. But I think we should have gone for the gunfights. And the reason I'm apologizing is that this is the worst movie of 2010. No, there's no way. No matter how much I hate Iron Man 2, which I think came out around this time, this movie makes that Batman and Robin look like freaking Shawshank Redemption or Citizen Kane. This is such a turd.
The jump cuts alone leaves you confused.
Yeah, I'm a history major. I've actually studied this stuff. You studied this stuff long before they changed the education to an extent into the garbage I had to go suffer through back in the late 90s and early 2000s. And this made my brain hurt. How in tarnation did... it starts in 1925. Okay. The prologue's fine. It starts strong. It's almost like a dream sequence. Then it jumps to 1934. Okay. But then it'll jump around between 1935, 1936, 1934. And it jump cuts worst than, I don't know, a Zoomer girl with a shooting TikTok videos. This is just, I don't know why it's jump cutting. Jumping from one scene to the next with no transition. No, traditional film techniques to show the change in scene or anything. All we get is timestamp, timestamp, timestamp. We're introduced to Churchill almost at the complete end of the movie. Okay, this is a guy who dominated the world the age he lived in when it comes to Britain. Oh no, we gotta introduce one of the greatest prime ministers in British history, maybe even the greatest political figure in modern day Britain, or Britain as a whole. I'm not saying England and Scotland, just Britain. And he's gotta come in only for a scene. What are you thinking? And you've got, of course, they almost go too far with exaggerating some of the stutter. I mean, Dan and I both have our own stutters, weak ones, compared to what George probably did suffer through. But they almost make it comical in this movie, to the point of insulting. And then there's all the cussing, which, okay, fine, you can have a few cuss words, but they really just go to town on it. For no reason. It's what are you doing? Every second piece of dialogue that George the Sixth comes out with is bloody well, bloody, 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 bloody. No, you'd almost think he was a sailor. No, this was a guy whom historically was known to be prim and proper. And Lionel's family, his speech therapist's family, came out and disowned that part of this movie and said he didn't cuss that much. What were you thinking? Well, I'll tell you what the problem was. Tom Hooper, the director. This guy has no career. Or at least he's failed upwards, because his Miserable movie is garbage compared to the 1998 Liam Neeson starring one, which was a great movie, but the musical one with those was just a disaster. And you've got, I can't think of a single movie of Hooper's that I liked. And I can't think of a single TV series episode that he shot that I liked. And I know I'm going on a tangent, but this movie makes my blood vessels want to pop, because Helena Bonham Carter is one of my favorite actresses. Colin Firth is one of my favorite actors. And I forget his name, curse me for that, but I think Plum or something, the actor of Barbossa who plays Lionel in this movie, is one of my favorite actors, though I can never quite remember. I know his first name is Jeffrey Rush. That's his name. Jeffrey Rush. He's a brilliant actor. While I think that they overused him as Barbossa eventually and that he should not have been revived, he is such a great, perfect actor. How, like, with this cast, this should have been a home run.
And you have the writer for Quest for Camelot.
Well, some people don't like Quest for Camelot because it had like 5, 6 writers, but so maybe the others were just drowning out his stupidity. I don't know. But he's 84 to 85 years old, and at the time he would have been 70 when he wrote this. So he probably knew something of what he was doing. So we can't say it's the fault of the writer.
It's the director.
And it can't be the fault of the actors because they're good. Although this is a Weinstein production, so it was probably drowned in endless red tape almost. Just people just rewriting the script over and over. And of course, we know that the British royal family basically funds every royal picture and whatnot. So that's favorable and slanted. I'm not bad-mouthing the monarchy. Don't get me wrong. But I just think that we have to acknowledge that their money goes into this. Although, if I were Elizabeth, I'd have asked for my money back because she really did not get her money's worth. I'd actually say she should have sued the studio for blackening her father's good name because this is just such a disgrace. And I normally do like, oh, well, we start the movie like this, but I already did the prologue, and this thing, like, oh, yeah, I'll end up going, yeah, wife goes to see the speech therapist, Lionel. And then later we get a couple of jump cuts, and then George comes over to see his speech therapist, has a session, storms off after, well, doing Shakespeare while deafened, which that seems fine. There are scenes in this that are good, but then they're divided by these terrible scenes that are just painful to watch. This was basically made like a series of TikTok videos, and it's painful to suffer through.
Transition is all of a sudden. The director doesn't understand transitioning to different scenes. It's like there are some sub-story arcs, like the entire Shakespearean story arc of Lionel he wanted to play in the Shakespearean play.
That's dropped.
That's dropped. It goes nowhere. Where it would offer him
character development
and his own story. Because we're supposed to have co-protagonists here.
And the wife's also supposed to be a co-protagonist, but she's dropped halfway through the movie. To an extent. But, like, this is just such a disaster of a movie. Like, I know Team 4-Star came up with the term cadaverific, but I'm going to say disasterific is what this movie is, on top of cadaverific.
You've got everything to make an excellent movie, but Tom Hooper...
Like, yeah, the director just wants to make TikTok videos. And it's just, oh, God. Somebody, like, come in, shoot the guy who edited this movie, and shoot him. I'm not calling for anyone to die. No, I'm not. I'm being melodramatic, hyperbolic. But, like, they should have... The thing is, they bring in Shakespeare. They bring in Richard III. They bring in... who was it? Hamlet. No, I think Much to Do About... Oh, yeah, it was Hamlet. But they bring in Hamlet with the To Be or Not to Be. And they bring in Richard III. And the thing is, Richard III's opening soliloquy is one of my favorites. And they don't complete that. They should have had him finish the entire soliloquy, because it's brilliant. But they should have staged this along the lines of Shakespeare as a bit of a background. What I mean is, you have George reading Shakespeare. You've got his wife reading Shakespeare. You've got Lionel reading Shakespeare. Not like as narration, but Shakespeare is the thing that binds them together, in a way. And their lives are perceived through the lens of literature here. and where we see that not only for Shakespeare, but also thanks to Shakespeare, we see that all of British history is kind of interconnected here and is climaxing in this great moment for George VI to give his passionate speech, which I have listened to and I do love. And I'm annoyed that this movie actually had Colin Firth deliver it when he could have just cut to the radio speech, which is actually better delivered than Firth did. He does a bang-up job as best he could, but let's face it, it's not George VI himself speaking. And that's what we should have gotten. That's what we would have gotten in the 90s or something, where they would have cut to that. And they did do that in old cinematic movies. Well, in old cinema from the 90s and early 2000s. But, like, this movie just... Oh, it's physically painful to sit through. It gives you headaches.
It's like, sure, Lionel's way of handling stuttering, there are actually proven methods to help stutterers. But
it looks like you could have used Lionel's help just now. The actual Lionel, not this guy. Oh, frick. Sorry.
It's like I just wanted Falcon Punch Tom Hooper over this disaster. Yeah. You had everyone that could have made it a great movie.
All you needed to top it was Christopher Lee. But I bet they would have screwed him up, too. Oh, frick, this movie. Let's rate this. I'm going to say a 0. There's nothing to redeem this turd. How do you screw up this badly?
I want to compliment the actors and the set.
You could give it a higher rating.
It's like a quarter star for that.
Yeah.
But as far as the movie itself goes, 0.
Yeah, so I'll just say quarter star, since you did enjoy the actors, at least.
The actors, the research into stuttering methods that is studied under
costume design.
The costumes, the sets. A lot of it is really, really nice.
But they're basically trying to impress us with bling. But there's no it's a cheap exterior. There's no rich interior.
Exactly.
Thankfully, our next video will be Top Gun, which hopefully will be a lot better, as we've never seen that 1980s classic. And given that as Tom Cruise, I don't think it'll be a bad movie.
Or as bad as this.
I don't think almost anything could be this bad, except maybe a couple of movies out there. This is in my top 5 worst movies of all times. This is just...
I pray you didn't just jinx our future movies.
Anyways, take care, everyone, and hope you have a great day. And don't forget to like, share, comment, tell us what you thought of this, and smash that subscribe button.